In our series, A More Perfect Union, we like to show that what unites us as Americans is far greater than what divides us. So ahead of President's Day weekend and during Black History Month, we're looking at Thomas Jefferson's legacy and the unbreakable connections of his descendants. So take a look at these two guys. They don't look alike. That's Shannon Lunier and Lucian Truscott. They're related. Vladimir Dudier of our streaming network, CBSN, is here with the story of their ancestral links. Vlad, can't wait to hear. Good morning.
It's a fascinating story, Gail. Good morning. Presidential estates have long struggled with how to present the founding-era exceptionalism along with the full history, which includes slavery. At Thomas Jefferson's Monticello estate, visitors are given a peek into the slave experience on the mountaintop. Their latest installation? The Sally Hemings exhibit, and it gives its most personal look at this shameful chapter in American history. At the expansive Monticello estate, there sits a simple room with white walls, brick floors, and a single silhouette that represents the life of Sally Hemings, one of our third president's more than 600 slaves. The exhibit takes a definitive stance on her relationship with Thomas Jefferson and the children they had together. A story once hidden now has the spotlight.
I knew that slave owners all over the South had relationships with slaves, so why wouldn't Thomas Jefferson?
Lucian Truscott is Jefferson's sixth great-grandson.
As a descendant of Thomas Jefferson, I was given a run at the place. When I was a kid, I jumped on Thomas Jefferson's bed.
Shannon Lunier is also Jefferson's sixth great-grandson, but he's from Sally Hemings' side.
My story is a little different from Lucian's because when we were studying the presidents in second grade, I stood up and I proudly said, Thomas Jefferson is my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. And the teacher said, sit down and stop telling lies.
Come on out and meet your relatives.
In 1998, Truscott met his Hemings cousins for the first time on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Oprah turns to me and she says, well, Lucian, now you met your Hemings cousins. What are you going to do now? And I went, oh, my God, what am I going to do, you know? And so I invited him to come to Monticello for the family reunion.
He was bringing the slaves and the slave owners, children, and descendants together for the first time. So there were a lot of people that did not want that to happen. And it also could mean that their possible icon, that Jefferson was a rapist. And they didn't want that to be their ancestor. They didn't want that to be their hero.
Stand up here.
Now they're really not going to like me.
The Monticello Association, separate from the Monticello estate, voted not to allow the Hemings to be buried with other Jefferson descendants in this graveyard.
This is your mom?
Yeah.
Should the descendants of Sally Hemings be also buried in the family
Without
graveyard?
a doubt. That graveyard is for Jefferson descendants, and they're Jefferson descendants.
175 people on the plantation in Jefferson's day. 135 of them are enslaved African Americans.
I grew up at a time when you didn't hear the word slave here. You could go on 10 tours over 10 different years and never heard the word slave. And now the tours you take here are complete tours. I feel good that America now gets the full story. I mean, these two rooms used to be a bathroom, and they uncovered that Sally and her brother lived here. And if you take the tour, they go through Jefferson's bedroom. It says John Hemings built that archway there. That was never talked about. You were never taught when you were a kid, and you weren't, and I wasn't, that slaves built Monticello, the Capitol, the White House. This country would not exist without slaves. And Sally Hemings was one of the founding mothers of this country. I like to think about Thomas Jefferson getting up on the day that he wrote the Declaration of Independence back in 1776. Who made his breakfast? Who came in and shook his shoulder and said, Mr. Jefferson, it's time to get up and write the Declaration of Independence? Slaves did.
I'm proud of my cousin for saying it. And it's so true because, 50 years ago when you come to Monticello, they act like Jefferson built this place by himself and there were no slaves here. And they're now putting context to the content and telling that full story of what happened here. And I think that makes history richer.
What do you think Sally Hemings' legacy should be?
Wow. I think one of the legacies that Sally Hemings left her children was that they know who they are. They didn't have to be silenced, that they were able to tell their story.
It's one of the great things in my life is getting to know the rest of my family. It's made my life and the life of my children so much richer.
We can prove that after being separated by slavery and by history for so many decades that we can come together as family, that maybe the world still has hope out there. They can come together and leave their differences behind them.
And we were able to get into that graveyard where Thomas Jefferson is buried because, as a descendant of Thomas Jefferson, Lucian was able to get a key. He has a key. That is a privilege that Shannon does not have.
Is that going to change, do you think? I love this story, Vlad.
Thank you. I asked Shannon, it's great that they're acknowledging you as a descendant of Sally Hemings, but the real acknowledgement is when you sadly pass, will they put you in that graveyard next to Thomas Jefferson? And he says, right now they can't, but I deserve that right. I don't know that I want to be buried there, he says, but I deserve the right to be.
Yeah, I should have the option. I love how Lucian is speaking up, and I love the two of them together.
Yes.
They were wonderful, and what's really fascinating is when Lucian described Sally Hemings as a founding mother of this country, and all the mothers and fathers and uncles who built this country, he feels very strongly about that.
Who helped make history.
Yeah, and it's amazing because when we were there were groups of people that were taking the tours, and they were hearing about it, and they said, what's going on over here, Vlad? And I said, these are the two descendants of Thomas Jefferson. And one man from Iowa, an older gentleman, said, I'd never heard about this.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either when I was younger. I never heard that story before.
Glad to see the
But
two
now we know
cousins
it's
together
true.
now.
Yes, we know it's true. Thank you, Vlad.
Thank you, Vlad.